Hi, I'm Machaela Kozlowski, New York, USA National Miss, and this is my interview with the Pageant Project.
Hello, everyone. It's Adrian from the Pageant Project. My special guest for today, tonight, whatever it is, wherever you are, is Machaela Kozlowski, who is USA National Miss New York. Machaela, welcome to the show.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
How have you been? I've had a bit of a forced hiatus on social because Mark Zuckerberg decided that I needed to be frozen out because apparently I did something very offensive. I have no idea what. But I know previous to my forced hiatus that you yourself were doing a lot of interviews. So how have those been going for you?
I love my interviews. I'm interviewing basically all the senior division girls of the USA National Miss just to get to not only know them before the pageant, but also to share what their platform is, what they're doing, and help support whatever they have going on. And also so everyone else knows and can help support them as well.
Have you done much interviewing before?
Not too much before joining USA National Miss, but I have loved it since and meeting
Yeah.
all the new wonderful women that it's just so inspiring. I love it.
So give us the brief rundown on how your experience has been so far. How many have you done? What has it been like? Have you struggled with tech issues at all? Has it all been smooth? Give us the rundown.
So the rundown of it is just I do it through Instagram Live, so it is a one and done usually deal. Sometimes it's hard to get the girls initially on the interview page.
Mhm.
So once I get them on, it's smooth rolling. I have heard that there is an overlay between talking right now, so I'm trying to figure out how to fix that. But I've interviewed maybe, oh gosh, close in the high teens right now. In the high teens, I haven't counted just yet. There is more and more every single week. So I actually have one later tonight, and then I have one
Wow.
tomorrow, and so forth. It's just almost every single day that I have an interview and trying to fit all these beautiful women and trying to find them's the hardest. I can definitely say that on the Instagram page. I'm like, if you're watching this and I haven't asked you, just please reach out to me. Like, I'm not ignoring you. I'm just trying to reach out to everybody.
Doing so many interviews, you're putting me to shame. So you're doing what, like almost one, well, you got at least me, and then you got another one tonight, then you have
Yes.
another one tomorrow. So, and I certainly resonate with reaching out to the girls. How are you reaching out to the girls asking for interviews? Normally with me, if I'm reaching out to someone, it's a DM. Although I
Yeah.
do prefer if people have an email, just because I feel email cuts through a little bit more, whereas DMs often go into the request folder.
Yeah, so I usually follow each of the girls and then I will DM them. Hopefully they see it. I know sometimes it's super difficult.
Yeah.
People think that there's spam happening. I'll continue just to like all their photos just to know like, hey, I am trying to reach out to you. I know sometimes, things get overwhelming, things get busy. So I'll try to reach out again one more time to see
Yeah.
if, by any chance they finally realize like, hey, I'm not a spam. But so far, it's pretty much, I would say, 85 to 90% they'll message me back, all the girls.
Nice. Nice. And how have you found the actual skill of interviewing itself? I mean, you hadn't done much before, but clearly you've done a lot in a relatively compressed period of time. So how have you been finding the actual skill of interviewing itself?
It definitely has developed since I first started interviewing,
Yeah.
and I just wanted to realize and get to the point of the interviews, which is letting them know who they are, what they do, can we support them in any way, and for me to get to know a little bit information about them. And usually at the end, I ask them if they want to ask me anything because
Mhm.
it's we're getting to know each other for the very first time. So I feel like let you know me and I'll know you. And so far they've been going absolutely wonderful. I love it. I'm definitely increasing with my interview skill level and
Yeah.
getting to be a lot more intellectual with my questions, and I feel like I am progressing as I go.
When you say
Yes.
intellectual, what do you mean? What questions were you asking before as opposed to asking now?
So there was definitely questions in the very, very beginning where I just was asking like, "Where do you live?" Like, just, like, general based
Right.
questions that were
Okay.
not too much important, rather than
Yeah.
now I'm asking, "Which part of the USA National Miss platform is it kindness, compassion, or earth most resonates with you?" Like,
Mm.
there's a very big difference between what I was asking then to what I'm asking now, and I'm not trying to make it too difficult, but I'm also just trying to, like, get to know
Yeah.
them and get to know, what is most important in their lives so I can help them.
Yeah, I think you want to have a good mix of questions. I mean, some simple questions are nice, but then some questions that give the girls a chance to show their range a little bit is definitely something that's needed. Let's take this angle. So, why don't you tell me what your favorite question has been to ask the girls so far? And then let's get you to answer it because obviously you're competing yourself. And we're kind of flipping the script here on you. So, you've been interviewing everyone and now we're interviewing you. So, what's the favorite question you've been asking your interviewees? And then can you answer it, please? I'll just sit here
Yeah.
and do absolutely
Get the
nothing.
phone.
It's okay.
So so I actually have my 2 top favorite. One's a really, like, not so easy question, which is the question I just asked, is which
Yep.
part of the platform most resonates with you? And all 3 actually do, because with kindness, I am doing care packages to the military every single month, making sure each troop and new division and branch of the military gets a bunch of care package every single month, knowing that it's from me. I'm trying to help, and I know they're not getting a lot of care packages recently. Someone reached
Mm,
out to me. So I'm doing that plus compassion with my own platform, Pause, providing animals a safety. I've raised with fundraising, making my own stickers, over $3,000. And now I'm actually trying to do a little bit of a run in the spring. It could be virtual or it can be in person, going together and raising money to help animals without a home get medical attention, like needed emergency surgeries and such, so they can go on to be adopted at some point or just have a
mm.
happier and healthier life. And finally, I love the Earth part of the Inspire platform, because actually, not only at my old college, but my new college, I am part of the bottle drive program, which all the money goes back into funding veterans to get college education. So I go around every single week to collect the water bottles on campus, and I love collecting water bottles. It's really weird, but I did it all at my dorms throughout my old college and now my new college. I absolutely just adore going around collecting water bottles. And sometimes they said, we'll just throw out the ones that have a lot of trash. I'm like, no, I will get gloves and get the water bottles out of there. It's like, they're not
Good for
going
you.
to waste. And I will do that and make sure that they're all collected. And so all that money is going to really, really good use. And I would say my second favorite question, which is a very simple one, is what is their favorite candy? And I love this one because there's actually going to be a surprise. I don't want to mention it, but during pageant week,
Okay.
there's a surprise why I'm asking all the Miss specifically this question, because I don't have enough for all the senior girls. But for me, I am a chocolatey girl. So my favorite would be
Nice.
Kit Kats. I love Kit Kats. I don't eat them too much,
Ah.
but like my little snack whenever I really am, craving something, it would be Kit Kats.
Have you ever tried a Tim Tam?
Ooh, what's a Tim Tam? I never have tried a Tim Tam.
A Tim Tam is a famous Australian biscuit. So whenever I go overseas or an Aussie pageant girl goes overseas, and sometimes you need to bring a food that represents your country.
Mm.
There kind of is two things that an Aussie girl would bring. One is Vegemite. Don't try it. It's death. I hate it. But the other one that's much better is Tim Tam, which is a chocolate wafer biscuit.
Mm.
And that sounds rather, dry and boring, but there's something about the way the chocolate is put together that, put it this way, last time I was over in the UK, I took over about 8 to 10 packets of these biscuits, and there's about 10 biscuits in each pack. Each girl that I gave it to, the packet didn't survive the night. They ate all of them. And Tim Tam, so, they're about yay big. There's the original, there's double coat, double the chocolatey goodness. There's now triple coat. There's ones with salty caramel on the inside, there's strawberry, there's cherry, there's peppermint, there's dark, there's white. I don't know what sort of chocolate floats your boat, but that is something. If you're a chocolate person, you have to try Tim Tams because it's similar to Kit. It's got that Kit Kat vibe. If you like that crunch with the Kit Kat, the wafer, then Tic Tacs, Tim Tams, Tic Tacs, Tim Tams have that. So next time I'm in New York, I'll bring you some Tim Tams. I'll just send you some,
Oh
and you'll
my,
have to try it and see how you go.
I would love to try them.
There's also this weird thing called a Tim Tam Slam. So the biscuit is a rectangle. You bite off. I don't know if you've got any candies you do this with or biscuits. You bite off opposing corners, and then you use it as a straw to suck a hot liquid through. So you do that as well.
I never do that, but when I eat my Kit Kats, I'm that weird person that will eat the very corners a little bit and then go through the sides and then do layer by layer eating it.
I can't make fun of you because I do that myself as well. Not so much with a Kit Kat, but have you ever had those ice blocks? I don't know if you have Magnums or ice creams in New York
Even
where it's an ice cream with a hard chocolate shell. And I had one last night. I eat the chocolate around it and then eat the chocolate off and then I'm just left with the ice cream. So I understand. I don't know why we do that. But anyway, on a more serious note, so am I correct in saying that for USA National Miss, so the overall platform is called Inspire?
yes. So I love the Inspire platform. It's very new to the system. It's been about, I would say, 2 to 3 years that it's been around, and it's part of kindness, compassion, and earth. So it is not just dwindled down to like one specific thing. It's
Yeah,
for all girls to have a broader reach of what their platforms could be.
yeah. And I just jotted down a few notes because I wanted to ask you a few things. So
Yeah.
you've mentioned the military a couple of times. So some of you or a lot of your efforts are directed towards military, specifically veterans. I think you said you were helping to educate them once they come out of, well, not educate, but give them an education if they wanted to. Is there any particular reason? I mean, obviously it's a worthy cause. I was speaking to someone just before who was helping veterans, and obviously veterans and mental health in particular is a huge issue for any country, but particularly the United States, because you guys have such a large military presence around the world. Really, you guys are the peacekeepers. So why military?
So specifically with my military baskets, I do that because they're not getting much care overseas. Actually, in the past couple of months or even year, I've noticed that there's actually been a decline in support for these military troops, and I just
Mhm.
wanted to build them up, lift them up, let them know we still care, we still support you. And I had a person reach out to me say thank you so much, we're not even getting we're not getting care packages anymore, we barely can send them out. So he said it
Yeah,
was very, very wonderful that this is what we are doing as the entire New York State. So I came up with the idea of having my junior teen and preteen help out, contribute, donate. We're even getting together next month with the military star girls, and they're going to be creating this huge event. So positive pageantry,
yeah,
and on top of that, so the bottle drive specifically, I when I joined it, it wasn't the one I started like I did at my old college. That one went to students who couldn't afford books, clothes, or even like
yeah,
college tuition. That went to them specifically. This program was already started, but they needed another person to take over with bottle collecting and hopefully being on a board member soon. And they already had everything going with helping the veterans get the college education because it's really hard for them to come out and really hard to
yeah,
afford it at the
yeah,
very end. So this is helping them be able to, like, you helped us, you protected us. Now this is something we can do for you. And even though like they do in return get education, this will help them for the books, their school supplies, everything on top of that as well. So I
yeah.
really love it. And every single week when I go collect, I just know I'm like contributing to a good cause.
Are you looking for other people to get involved, Michaela?
We are always looking for other people to get involved. I actually tried to see if there's any off campus life that could help, and he said it has to be on campus. So I've been
Yeah,
looking around. They said the person that they just had actually me replace because he was not contributing and not collecting, and like he would just be
yeah,
like, ah, I'm not gonna do it. And so they're really, really happy to recently just have me join. and
Yeah.
they're like, "This is you're like a spirit that just uplifted us all." And so, and it's not just my college at the programs at it's at, but I think it's at like five colleges total in New York
Right.
State
Yeah.
that the Derek is his name, he goes to and he helps collect the water bottles. So he said, now I don't have to worry about my college, Lemoyne, because I got it under control and he trusts me, which is really nice to have.
Yeah.
So I'm just happy about everything.
Yeah, nice. No, it sounds like you're doing a great job, and it's always a bit of a shame when someone's in charge of something that's to do with charity or giving back, and I don't know if not taking it seriously is the right word, but obviously you want someone who's going to do it properly.
Yeah.
The other one I wanted to ask you about is so we've got kindness, compassion, and earth, and with compassion you've got pause, and you said you've raised $3,000 already, which is an amazing total. But tell us more, tell the viewers more about pause. So we talked about the military and why you're passionate about that. What about pause?
Yeah, so PAWS stands for Providing Animals with Safety. It's my own general platform that I created. I wanted something that resonates with animals. Ever since I was little, I wanted to help animals in any way. And after now working as a veterinary assistant, and I was a vet tech major, but I'm now just a bio major, I realized that I really just want to help animals that do not have a home. And there's a lot of animals that actually don't get adopted or
Mm,
end up having to be put down because of the reason they have medical problems that no shelter can afford to help. So, by me contributing any part of my donation, the fundraising that I'm creating, and even to my little local area Animal Alliance at Greater Syracuse, which I used to be a board member, but I'm going to go back very shortly, be on a board member as soon as I have a little bit more free time on my
mm,
plate.
yeah.
Because I told him, like, right now, I definitely don't feel like I'm contributing my whole self into this, and I want to
Mm,
be able to. So I'm going to support, volunteer, help in any way I can. Just right now, it can't be on the authority of the board,
mhm.
but
Yep.
I can't go back to them. So they have a program called Like Up, which is the same thing. They help animals that don't have a home get the medical attention. So I helped an 8-week-old puppy named Lieutenant Dan because he was missing a leg. And because of that, it was only half of it. So they had to amputate the whole leg. And I was able to raise around $500 to give to him. And that was just me creating my own little stickers I have of
Mhm.
my logo paws. And I sold them at my college. I sold them around, social media at the time. And all that money went towards that animal. He got the amputation that he needed and he got adopted. So in this past winter, I was able to help 5 animals with my money that I raised from my previous pageant. I was the fabulous face winner, so I raised over $1,500. So all that money got to those 5 animals to get all the care and attention that they needed. Some of them got frozen, and some of them needed surgery. Some of them just needed medications. So they all received them. I'm not sure if all of them just got adopted yet, but I know most of them did.
Right. Do you have the same issue that we have in Australia? Because I'm just curious as to the cause. Like, what's at the root cause of having, well, in Australia, so many animals that because especially around Christmas, buy someone a cute puppy. Now, unfortunately, after they grow up, then suddenly the owner decides not so cute, and then they're abandoned or given to shelters, which is we call them puppy farms or kitten farms, where they like to breed like purebred, pure species of dogs, particular dogs, because they're super cute. And then you just end up with this huge number of unwanted, unfortunately, there's no other way to describe it, unwanted animals. And if they're given to shelters, that's probably a better thing. A lot of them are just abandoned on the streets and they become feral and, living out of garbage cans. It's terrible. Do you have that same issue where you're at?
Yeah, so especially working at a veterinary hospital, we actually recently just got a call about a woman that got her kids a puppy for Christmas. She can't
Mm,
afford the health care. She can't, this puppy's never been vaccinated. It got sick. And she goes, so what do I do? I don't have money to help this animal. We're like, you shouldn't have an animal if you can't afford to take care of it medically
yeah.
and physically. It's not just food and water. It's not just letting in and out. It is also all the vet bills. It is also if your pet ever gets sick, anything like that. And especially they most of the time, especially during the pandemic, a lot of people got more animals,
Yeah.
and a lot that also increased the shelter's capacity of holding animals because they got a lot of dogs and cats returned to them. And
Okay.
it's very saddening, and I hate that, and I hate to use the word hate, but I hate that people are doing this. It's not right at all. So we do have the same problem here in the US where people just got animals, put them and can't afford them, or they get sick for any reason. They're like, yeah, I don't want it no more. It's like
Yeah.
having an animal is the same thing as having a kid. You got to take care for
Exactly.
it responsibly, medically,
Hmm.
everything. You got to prepare for the worst. And it's just, you got to be prepared.
I agree. I mean, the flip side of that is because my brother is a vet. He's also now a doctor, so he doesn't work
Oh,
actively as a vet. But I have a couple of friends who are vets, and one of them was on social media, and there was this social media, I don't know who it was, going on a rant about how vet bills are so expensive, and if you love animals, then you shouldn't be charging so much. And obviously, my friend who's a vet took exception to that and said, "Well, what do you do for a living? And given that you love it so much, I'm going to assume that you'll do it for free." And I think people really underestimate the cost. And I mean, I like what you said about it's like having a child, and I really think it is that. And simple, if you can't afford it, as cold hearted as it might sound, then don't get it because you're
yeah,
not doing anyone any favors. You're certainly not doing the animal any favors. And vets, like all of us, have to pay the bills. And there's a reason that it costs how much it costs. I mean, you got drugs and obviously the skills and the cost it takes. Like, I don't know how long it takes to become a vet in the US, but here it's a good 4 or 5 years. And to think that they should be doing it for free, it just seems rather ignorant to me and something that you should have been responsible for rather than saying a vet should do the work for free. I don't know. Do you have the same issue again in the US?
oh yeah, especially even our vet techs. Like to become a veterinary technician, it takes 4 years total, and
Wow. Okay.
that's with a bachelor's degree, again from start
Mm.
of college to finish. And to become a veterinarian is the same length as becoming a human doctor. It's actually probably 12 years of your life total. You got four
Wow.
years getting your bachelor's degree, then you got
Yeah.
4 years going to be getting your doctorate, and then you got one other year just going around and basically just seeing which hospital fits best with you. It takes a
Okay.
long time, and the worst part is no one understands. They don't get paid the same. Like,
Yeah.
veterinarians don't even make the six-figure salary most of the time unless you're a huge specialty, but they
Mm.
make usually as much as a high school principal at points. Like, it's not that much, and people don't realize that. And
Yeah.
veterinary technicians make even less. They make less than a lot of people, and we get this education. This When I started actually vet tech school, the first thing they told me is be prepared to join one of the most high suicidal rate jobs you have ever seen.
Good.
And it was,
That's a pep talk.
oh yeah, I was like, thanks. They said, yeah, if you can't handle a dropout now, they told me that straight from the get go. So I
Yeah.
stayed with it for a while, and then I realized, maybe they're right. Maybe the cost of what you're getting paid doesn't justify what you're doing at that point. So that's why I want to stick to my platform and continue doing that, because that's where my heart and soul is at right now. But I still work as a veterinary assistant and helping animals as I go through my daily job and see what's happening. I
Yeah.
even worked at an emergency hospital where I saw the worst things, but at some point gave me hope. Like at one point, this is gonna be a really sad story, but there was a meth lab explosion. This dog came in. Only the reason why the dog was even brought in is because the human surrendered himself to help save the animal. So that gave
Wow.
me hope that people will give up part of them to help save animals. At one point, sadly, because of the explosion, nothing we couldn't save the pup,
Yeah.
but at least he did the right thing of turning himself in and making sure the animal
Mm.
received some type of care. And that gave me a little bit of hope, but since then it's just gone downhill.
What is it like, Michaela, working in a field like that? So we already discussed you got to study for 4 years, which is not it's not a small amount of your life, particularly at that age, and then you don't get paid a huge amount. And then I can only imagine it's like working as a doctor. People don't go to bring their pets in to see a vet if they're well, usually. So the pet's going to be unwell. And then I think some people, you really see how cruel some people can be when you're, looking after pets, and abandonment, or in some cases torturing or beating or starving. That can't be easy to deal with mentally for yourself on a ongoing basis.
No, so actually at my old job at the emergency hospital, they had a room where you can debrief yourself, you can cry, there's things for you to work out, release your stress and anguish
Mm.
because it's a hard job. You will see things, you'll see people being cruel. I
Yeah.
seen a dog be stabbed by a neighbor. I had to clean up the giant blood spill. Like
Mm.
there's things that you see that you don't want to see. And then there's things that people physically don't care. We've had so many people come and be like, I just want to euthanize my pet. And we're like, well, what's wrong with your dog? Like we looked over, there's nothing wrong. They're like, oh, we're moving. Like there's cases like this. People don't understand. We deny this. We were like, nope, we're not doing this. This is not what we're here for.
Yeah.
And yearly, we just do yearly exams, making sure your pet is healthy. Get the vaccines. Keep checking everything, making sure everything's good. And then it comes to your pet being sick, and we get like sometimes when the vet bills your pet's sick and there's something seriously wrong, that can be a couple grand. But we
Oh, yeah.
definitely give options such as like care credit, which is credit card that if you get approved, it'll help you pay over expanded period of time.
Yep.
There's programs, we do everything that we possibly can to help, but it does add up, and people are like, why is it so expensive, like you just said? And well, actually, it's not just us, everything else is increasing in price around our
Yeah.
whole
Yep.
everywhere. And it's like it's not just, it's not just us. And as much as we don't like it, it's our own pets too. We have to pay the higher fee.
Yeah.
But it's for it's making sure we have everything, jotted down. We did all the tests, making sure everything's correct, and that's how we figure out what's wrong. But it is expensive, and you got to have like people. So I've heard some people actually say we have a separate, a little account or a little jar, and we put like,
Mhm.
they said, oh, it's our little swear jar. Every time we swear, we put something in, and they'll say that
Yeah.
for emergency vet visit, they specifically do
Yeah.
that, or just emergency visit at all. And like that's a great idea because your kid is like your pet is like your kid. You got to take
Yeah.
care of it, and there's emergencies that happen, such as humans. Your kid breaks your arm, something happens, you got to take care of it. Said that there is insurance for animals now, and people
Yeah.
need to understand that there is lots of insurance. So definitely get insurance like you would for your kids normally. So I say the same thing.
Yeah. That story about someone wanting to put down their pet just because they were moving. See, that
Well, can I?
boggles my mind because I can't imagine even contemplating that. I think it's just absurdly cruel. But let me ask you this. When someone thinks in that manner, because obviously there's, I mean, you already said you hate the word hate, but there is a lot of hate in the world. Go on social media, in 5 minutes, you'll experience it. Do you think there's any sort of root cause as to why some human beings can just be so intolerably cruel as to, oh, we're moving, let me put, because you've obviously dealt with this a lot, I'm going to say, because you're kind of what I would say at the coal face. You're seeing some people who love their pets, which obviously is going to be uplifting. But then you're seeing some people who are just like, they seem to be from another planet. No empathy, no emotion, no nothing. And the pet doesn't have any say in it. The pet, blindly follows you, blindly loyal to you for the most part. Have you ever had any thoughts as to what this shows about, let's call it, the human condition?
Yeah, so we get actually sadly a couple cases like this a year where people will try to do this, and usually the cases they'd be like, "Oh, it's my kid's dog. It's not my dog," or they would just like put it off as not their own. And usually, it like we're like, "What do you mean? It's your pet. You're coming in with
Yeah,
your pet," and
yeah,
they feel like they have no other choice. And usually, they grow up. Most of the time they grew up without animals, or they never had the kindness or compassionate towards animals. And like normal people who love
yeah,
animals, we were like, how can this be? And we still have, I have no idea why people are so cruel, to abuse animals, to want to just put them off just because you're moving, because you feel like you have no other choice what to do with it. Like,
Yeah.
it's very saddening, and I don't understand why people feel like they have no other choice, why they feel like this animal is not being neglected when it is. And
Mm.
I just I feel like it was something, as growing up with the experience. I've actually had somebody who is a friend at school, like, "Have you ever had a pet?" He said, "No."
Mm.
And I was like, "So when you see like dogs, you don't get like, like, oh, it's a dog, can I come pet it?" Or
Yeah, yeah.
anything like that. He goes, "No, I've never experienced that." So I feel like especially people that grew up without having a pet and they get a pet
Okay.
for their kids now in the future, they don't have any, they're like, "Yeah, we don't care."
Yeah.
That happens sometimes, and it's very sad.
Yeah, I kind of get that from an intellectual point of view, but at the same time, I think empathy is very, I mean, you talk kindness and compassion. I think if you need to be taught what kindness and compassion and what empathy is, something has gone probably deeply wrong in your own life. And even if you haven't had a pet, I mean, going around and, I mean, there's terrible stories of actually people torturing other animals, people torturing animals for pleasure and like just, you know, to amuse themselves, and I just think it's absolutely terrible. I think they should end up in jail. But that's obviously a facet of what you do. So just to clarify, are you looking to move out of it? Obviously, it's a very emotionally taxing environment. What's sort of for yourself the career path that you're envisioning for the next year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years?
So I have moved out, not like fully moved out of it. I still obviously work in a veterinary
Yeah.
hospital right now, but I realized I want to keep my platform. I want to keep it for the purpose if that's what I'm really passionate about. I want to help
Mm,
the animals at home get the medical attention. But I realized just in the field itself that I don't think that it justifies the means of like, not just like money wise, like your earnings. Like, I have the heart and soul for what I want to do to help animals,
yeah.
but it gets tough there. And sometimes that, people just have to leave the field at a very short period of time of being part of it
Yep.
because of the things you experience and what you go through. And sometimes like there's been cases where like somebody in the back would be like, "I want to kill this owner, what are they doing?"
Mm,
And because they're so abusive towards these animals, and we obviously love animals, we care so much about them. We've cried in the back when people say that we just want to off our pet because we're moving. Like, we've cried, we've been through it. And especially, even having a favorite pet that's been healthy and it's just time to let go, and we've seen
mm,
it for years, we get emotional. We had to hide that emotion from the owners, but we do
yeah.
get
Yeah.
emotional, and it gets a hard job. And I just realized right now I'm switched to just a biology major, and I do want to go and try physician assistant, but keeping my
Hmm.
platform strong, doing the yearly things I want to do, and
Yeah.
fundraising as most of my can whenever I can. I want to rejoin the board member, like I said, so I can definitely. We're trying to build a low cost spay and neuter clinic to help people, so they don't have to pay as much
Mm,
as the normal surgeries would be. So that's wonderful. I love that. I hope we get that soon up and running. But
yeah.
other than that, it's tough. So I realized that I need to maybe try to look elsewhere. But hey, who knows, if I finish my biology major, I'm like, I want to retry it, maybe a different kind of field, maybe marine biology,
Yeah.
maybe I will
Yeah.
go back. You never know what's going to happen. People do change their minds, but I do want to stick with medical definitely in some type of way and if it can be helping animals, that'd be wonderful. But I realized how much that really does get to you,
Mm.
and it's gotten to me recently, but I still want to be able to have my platform strong and keep that going.
Yeah, I think it's important that you look after yourself, and it's important that you're aware enough to realize that it does take a toll on you, no matter how resilient you are. In fact, sometimes the more resilient you are, the worse it is because you put up with more than what most other people would, and you keep going longer than you probably should, and then you're the one that ends up paying the price for it. I mean, you mentioned medical. Is there any particular reason that you want to stay in the medical field? I only ask this because I ask a question, I'll ask you this at the end, like, what's a job that you couldn't imagine yourself doing, basically? And a lot of people say anything to do with being a doctor or vet, anything basically because of the sight of blood, they couldn't do it, or, giving bad news emotionally, they couldn't deal with it. So, why are you so passionate to stay in the medical field?
I ever since I was little and with my dolls, with my stuffed animals, I helped them, I cared for them. And even whenever someone got hurt in my family, like they got a little band-aid, they would call me over, be like, Michaela, go get, you're the medical one,
Right.
go get it. So I would always just want to have to help people. I've always had that helping passion. I've wanted to just take care of people, make sure they're happy. I always I'm not like a people pleaser, but I do want to make people feel as joyful as they can or just as
Yeah.
happy in any situation. Because I know some situations can get really, really tough. And so I just, in that shoulder, I'm that person. I'm like, yep, you can take it out on me. Even if it's a really bad day, you like rant, you need to scream at me. Scream at me, I'll take it. I understand. So I'm
Right.
very like just understanding in that person that I want to help. So just being help, especially medically, I love it.
Mm.
I just want to be able to help cure or help in any way, just the situation you're going through.
Yeah. That makes sense. I'd be careful about saying that you can yell at me because you might get people. You might that actually might be a really good way of raising charity funds is to say you
It's
can yell at me, give a $20 charitable donation or maybe more, and you can rant at me for 5 minutes or something like that. But what do you do to look after yourself? So obviously you strike me as being, and it's kind of a New York stereotype, but you guys are resilient. Um, you keep going, you hustle. That's New York. I mean, when I went to New York, the one place I went to visit is actually I don't know if you know Gary Vaynerchuk, but he's a entrepreneur who's based in New York, very famous for talking about hustle, hustle, hustle. So I didn't go to see any tourist attractions. I went to see his office because I'm an entrepreneur and that's what I kind of value. But what makes you? I mean, firstly, am I right in saying that I feel that you're pretty resilient? And then number two, if I am, where did that come from?
so I grew up with my parents who always told me I was a very tough girl. I grew
Yeah.
up with I have two boy cousins and my sister's very tomboy. And I used to they would never you could say about 5 years ago, no one expected me doing pageants. That's that's how it
Okay.
is.
All right.
And I just grew up. I was bullied when I was younger too. I had a class of 16 boys and 3 girls. They actually all made a language just to make fun of me for how I looked. And because at that
Wow.
time I didn't dress like a girl, supposedly. I just wore what, at the time I was like, oh, my cousins wear this. I'll wear the same thing
Yeah.
or whatever.
Yeah.
And, or I wore glasses and I had a gap in my teeth. And, that made me feel very insecure. So actually, up until about 3 or 4 years ago, I was very, very low self esteem. And
Right.
so ever since I actually started doing pageants, it's gone up and it's made me a much, much better person. I can definitely say that. I've been more like passionate towards what I want, the causes that I want to go for. It's made me not only help myself, I de-stress with going to the gym now and I love
Mhm.
the gym. Wake up at 5 a.m. for it though, but I love the gym. And I just while growing up, I just learned to realize, like, you can. It at first it took a toll on me, like the name calling and
Yeah.
you know feeling like oh, I'm not pretty, I'm not good enough, and now those when those people reach back out to you and it's you just laugh about it now. Especially I've had people reach back out to me like, oh, you're doing this now. I'm like, yeah, didn't you make fun of me when I was younger? It went all the way up to like 8th grade of the name calling, the bullying, and I even tried to be with the girls. I couldn't learn. I didn't know how to put on makeup correctly, and they'd make fun of me for that. And I just felt like I never could do anything right. And my father, I played sports, basketball, and he just told me like, listen, if there's no bone showing and you're not dying, he goes, you get up when you fall and just smile and laugh it off. And I always did every single time. I never felt pain. Well, I was hurt, but I just kept getting up
Mhm.
and laughing about it and continued just going, 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 and made me definitely a stronger and better player. And I realized that can make me a stronger, better person no matter what happens. You just have to get up, laugh about it, and move on because when you get injured, it's not directly towards you most of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah.
It's just the situations that you get caught up in. And I realized going forward, that's the same way with life. You get caught up in situations and it's not always directed towards you, or if it is, get up, laugh it off, and move forward because there's better things at the end of the line.
Absolutely. The thing is that, I mean, what you just said is absolutely what you should do, but sometimes it's very easy to know what you should do, and it's difficult to do it for whatever reason. So I guess what I'm asking now is like, what was the impetus, or what gave you the courage to actually follow basically your own advice? Because a lot of people, look, given what you just described, a lot of people, would just fall apart and give up, have to move to another school. You didn't do that. So I mean, you got this good advice, but what gave you the courage to actually stick through it?
Just that my parents have always had my back. They always told me, whatever you do, we support you, but you got to be strong and uphold yourself first. And
Mhm.
you got to have your own
Okay.
backbone. They said, if you don't have your own backbone, you can't keep going forward. We're not going to let you, if you have to move schools. I did end up actually not moving elementary school because I don't want to sixth grade.
Yeah.
When I reached eighth grade, after the bullying's been going on for a really long time, and I really decided that I wanted to. I was in a private Catholic school, so my class was only 46 kids, and I realized I wanted to have like a broader spectrum of
Yeah.
options
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
friendships, because obviously the friendship I was in that crackled, and there's not much option to go from
Yeah.
there. So, and I kind of just talked myself through it, and I settled my own issue that I was having there, and I was like, listen, it's not going to work for me, and I need to see what else is out there. And thank gosh I moved to a public school
Yeah.
because I did end up getting a better education. I actually took auto mechanics, and I was the only girl in that class. And the teacher was so wonderful, but you did have the guys. I actually had an inappropriate experience, and the guy decided to do something very inappropriate, and I turned around and said, yeah, that's not happening. So I immediately just settled it right then and there. And I just, you got to have your own backbone. You got to stand up for yourself. And then, therefore, you will have more support behind you, because if you're strong enough to stick up for yourself, you'll definitely get more support going forward. And I know it's hard at first to be like, I can just give up. I can just, move on. I don't need to, say like, that's not right for me. I deserve better. Well, stand up for yourself first. And especially my parents have always taught me this, so I give my parents all the credit in the world.
Yeah.
But they always just taught me, you got to stick up for yourself first, and then whatever you do, and you already stuck up for yourself, you've been that person, you've been that strong one, you've been the more mature one, then we will have your back. And that's what I think, even if your parents are not like, not everybody has the most supportive parents in the world, and
Yeah.
but you'll have people that will support you and have your back, as long as you be like, I'm not being weak, I'm not being like just giving up. Be strong, try to fix it. If it doesn't work, move on, and people will
Yeah.
support you and say you tried, you really did. And obviously if you tried and it didn't work out, then you can definitely move on from there.
It's very, very important. Let's leave it at that. A hugely formative experience. You just reminded me. I needed to ask you about cars, but just before I go to the cars, can I ask you? So, if I take you back, I don't know, let's say 10 years or so, because you're 20 now. So, take you back to when the bullying was at its worst. Would the Michaela then recognize the Michaela that's in front of me now?
I would say no. I really would say no, only because I knew I would be strong in whatever I did, and I would be a person. When I was sixth grade, they said, what do you want to do in your future self? My three things I wrote down was monster truck driver, race car driver, or I was a star basketball player. That is what I wrote down when I was in
Not
sixth grade.
exactly pageant queen.
No, like I said 4 years ago, no one would expect me to have done pageants, and thank gosh I did, because I'm meeting women that are like myself. They're passionate
Yeah.
about something. They are very unique in their styling now. I've definitely changed, and I've changed for the better. I can
Yeah. Sure.
most certainly say that.
All right, so let me ask you about the cars, because I'm just looking here. So Michaela enjoys outdoor activities like hiking. Okay, so most girls will be like, yeah, I can hike. Fishing. All right, so I imagine when you catch them, do you catch and release, or do you eat them, or
Oh, they're food. I eat fish.
Okay, so you got to
I'm
gut,
definitely an eating
you got to
person.
catch the fish and you got to gut them. Okay, so now a lot of girls are going, oh, I don't want to do that.
I have actually gutted my own fish. I actually
Hmm.
I was known as the worm girl when I was a kid. My parents like they were like, "You're the one that's the worm girl. Put the worms on the hook." And I'm like, I always did.
Not sure if I could do that. I put shrimp on the hook. I've seen people put live worms on. Like, oh, I feel sorry for the worm. But ATV riding, snowmobiling, feel like, oh, okay, outdoorsy, but you're not gutting a fish. But then, as well as her unexpected passion for drag racing cars. Now, I need to ask you about this. Now, I was thinking about this. You're not actually the first one. You're the second one. There was an Aussie girl over here that I interviewed, and she is on a drag racing team. Um, but tell me more about the drag racing, and in particular, if we can circle around to it, I love the fact that you can be a pageant queen, glam up, be the girly girl, so to speak, but you haven't lost the other side of you, because I really value that. I think that's to be a whole person. You're embracing all the facets of you, and a lot of people think, oh, well, now that you're wearing makeup and pretty dresses, obviously you're not going to be fishing and doing the drag racing. But tell me more about the drag racing. I have to hear about this.
Yeah, so my dad has drag raced his almost close to his entire life. He's always had a unique passion for the old cars and transforming them into drag racing vehicles.
Oh, wow.
And
Okay.
and he still does. So he has a 1972 Dodge Dart and it runs in, I would say, eighth of the mile of 4.1 now, which I know people don't know. You don't know what that means. 4.1 seconds in that short of a
No,
time.
I know what that
Oh, you
means.
do? Okay.
I'm getting Fast and Furious vibes here from you.
So and my sister has her truck that she wanted to start getting drag racing, but she did not want to race. And so therefore I'm like, yeah, I want to race. So I'm getting my suit, I'm getting everything ready. I drag race not that truck, but up my old truck. And just trying to get used to starting up. And this year I will be racing the Chevy C10. It's a 1978, I believe. I love the truck. I love the style. It's all jet black, but I think we want to paint it blue to match our little our RC car and to race it next to each
Okay.
other. They look identical.
Right.
And I even have a passion for old vehicles. I own a 1966 Chevy Impala. It's all red.
Oh, wow.
So actually, it's in my photos. Me taking photos with that car because I love it so much.
Yeah.
And our whole family, I think everybody almost owns an old car in my family. We just love the passion having them. I
Wow.
did initially want to buy an El Camino and race
Hmm.
that, but I
Yeah.
realized I can just race the truck and that's perfectly fine. We actually got old and thrown out gym weights, like the weights you see at the gym, and we put that in the back of the truck and like screwed
To
it
help
in
it.
so the weight in the back of the truck
Right.
stayed
Yeah.
equal. So I am officially starting this year, but I've always been my dad's stage girl where I'll line him up, make sure he
Yep.
doesn't
Yep.
burn
Yep.
out, and then record him and everything.
Okay. So, have you ever done a quarter mile?
Yes.
Well, what? I don't know if I should be asking this, but whatever. So, what's the fastest you've done a quarter mile so far?
So far it's not fast because I've been racing like my Chevy Silverado. It's just
Yeah.
to get used to going down because you got to start off like getting used to the tree. You got to get used to going down straight, getting used to going
Yeah.
fast, and obviously you can't go that fast in a Chevy Silverado, but especially in that short of a time frame. So
Yeah.
definitely, obviously not over 100, and
Yeah.
it's my time's not the best, but that's just to get you going down straight. I think it was like 9 seconds, but it was oh wait, 9 seconds and an eighth. Sorry, 9 seconds and an eighth, not a quarter.
It's not slow for most people. You're sub 10 seconds.
Yeah. So it's so slow for my family because we're used to like the really high speeds. And actually, as we're speaking right now, I have my dad and my uncle. My uncle also owns a 1972 Chevy Nova, and that is being raced as well. And so they go to races together. They're both downstairs right now watching drag racing. They're watching it right now on live TV. Like it's a part of the family. We all drag race.
I have one of the things that I want to do at some point is learn how to put together or re-put together an old car. like a Dodge Charger or something like that. Not necessarily to race, but just there's something so visceral and real about those old-fashioned cars when you turn the ignition on and it comes to life and it feels like it's an animal. It's not like, as much as a Tesla or something like that is brand fangled new but you press the button and if it's electric, it literally makes no noise. I don't know if you've been in an electric car, you just press a button, like it's on. It's like, oh, okay. But to me, it doesn't have that same feeling. And so, I mean, my question for you is like, if you wanted to, and I don't know anything about mechanics. I mean, I started to be an aeronautical engineer, but that's not cars. That's something completely different. If I wanted to start learning how to restore an old car or something like that, where would I start? Where should I start?
So you got to start with having the right parts. So
Okay,
Summit Racing, it's called Summit Racing, but Summit has all the old parts to a lot of old vehicles. And recently there, you can't find as many parts anymore, especially after COVID. Like you can't find
sure.
much anymore. But find one that's not too broken up. And if it doesn't start, you can put things in start, maybe have to refurbish it and
Yeah,
actually get a new part sadly in. Uh i i would hate that for everything that's original about my
yeah, yeah,
Impala,
yeah.
and I would hate if anything was to be changed about it. I'm like, no, it's mine, I don't want anything to
Yeah.
change. Keep it original. I mean, there's still, for washer fluid, there is an actual glass bottle in there.
Oh my god.
So
Oh,
everything's
jeez.
original.
S-
So I
So,
would Summit is where you want to start.
okay. So there's this stereotype that's pretty outdated these days, but girl driving along and gets a flat, or needs to do something to her car, let's say the oil or the radiator, something. Would you be stuck on the side of the road waiting for a guy, or would you? No, no. I just had this image of you driving to a pageant, all glammed up, and something breaks down. You're like, "Oh, I'll handle this," and you see a pageant queen on the side of the road, all glammed up, jacking up the car or changing the oil. Be like, "That's amazing. I love that."
If I have the parts on me, definitely I know exactly how to jack it up. I do know how to replace my tires, especially I used to have a Jeep, so that was specific, like little nuts and bolts that you needed. You needed specific it was giant tire and it was so heavy I couldn't lift it. And
Okay.
so in that case scenario, I did need my father to help me. But now I got a new red Chevy Silverado 2022 and I love it. I'm like, yes, I could do this. This is fine with me because I can just lift it up and replace my tires. I know how to change my oil. I know how to do like the more, know how to replace my windshield wiper fluid, and I know that. I know all that. But especially if that engine light comes on, there's steam coming out of the front of the vehicle. Yeah, I'm calling my father. My father
No.
would be like, yeah, I don't know how to do this one.
Yeah.
Take a look and see what's wrong. But if it's drag racing, I can see like, oh, there's a belt missing. There's
Mhm.
that's loose. That it's more visible of what's you get the entire engine in front of you. You know it all works together. You got the pistons. You know which ones are working, which ones
Yeah.
not, and everything. It's more visible. So I could definitely be like, yeah, I can know that's wrong, rather than I know what is wrong with if my own truck has a blow up in the
Yeah.
engine.
Two questions before we move towards the end.
Yeah.
Um, do you have a dream car? And if so, what is it? And what is your opinion on the Fast and Furious franchise, which is predicated on drag racing that apparently is a quarter mile but seems to go for 30 seconds, which last time I checked is not particularly fast. But those two questions. So, dream car, yes or no? And two, thoughts on the Fast and Furious franchise.
So I pretty much have my dream car, but
Okay.
if I were to get any other vehicle in the world, it would definitely be an El Camino, probably 1960s, 1970s. Love the El Caminos. They're very unique. You don't see vehicles like that no more. So that's why I've always wanted an El Camino, but I pretty much have my dream car, which is my 1966 Chevy Impala. The Fast and Furious franchise, I loved it watching growing up. It's just very amusing. It's definitely not the real thing, though. I
Yeah.
can definitely say
Hmm.
not even close to being realistic or anything like that. But it's very amusing with entertainment and the sole purpose of like going fast and being in the car, doing these cool tricks.
Mhm.
Not reality, but it's definitely very, very entertaining.
You know that franchise is finally coming to an end. I think there's a 10th or 11th installment coming out in May or something, and then after that will be the last one. So they've made a lot of movies and
They
a lot of money.
they did, and people like I have a vast like movie and TV show range, so it goes from Fast and Furious. It can go from Grey's Anatomy. It can go to Criminal Minds. It's like a very broad spectrum of like what I'm interested in watching. Some people are like, no, I'm only restricted watching, or I even
Yeah.
watch in fact Marvel. I'm very broad range in like what I like and watching.
What about your music tastes? Equally as broad?
My very, very much I'm a country girl. I love country music. And I could definitely say I'm not too much into the new hits, the new pop music. I don't know
Yeah.
what it is. I just am not so much into it because I like give me any like old to that like I shouldn't say old. Give me early 2000s. And I
Mhm.
even love like I love the 80s music. I just like the old classic. Obviously,
Yeah.
if yokels like the old classics. My dad has grown up with listening to 80s on 8 on Sirius XM, and that's what I listen to. And I also listen to country. And most of the time, if nothing's playing, I will hit the pop station and listen. But most of the time, I just turn. I'm like, I can't listen to this. I gotta change it to something else.
Sound like an old-fashioned girl.
I really am, especially like where you're having a derby party at the USA
Yeah.
National Mess, and I'm like, come on, I got to bring out the giant hat and dress up like I'm at a derby and like the old fashioned derby though, and so I'm all prepared for that.
Wow. Okay. I'm glad I asked you that because it's nice to see someone who's a bit more connected to. I mean, you say it's old. I mean, 2000s. I
No,
mean, for you because you're only 20, sure, it's before you were born. But I think for a lot of other people, like 2000s is hard. What were the number one hits in two? Was that like Britney Spears and things like that? Was it
you
that
got
time? Boy bands.
you got Usher, you got Lady Gaga, you got Britney Spears, you got I can't even, there's so many. There's you got Kanye West then when he was up and doing everything.
Yeah.
It was all that, and I'm like, I love listening to that music because it's just so like everything about it. There's actually stories and everything going
Yeah.
on, and like
Yeah.
nowadays you don't hear too much of that, and like it's already
No.
been done. So that's why I when I'm at work, I actually play the early 2000s. People like, oh, I've never heard this. Like little prom girls, they'd be like, oh, I never heard this song. And I'm like, come on, I know I'm not that old. Come on,
You're not old. Just sounds like your music
no.
tastes might be a bit older. Do you hate it as much as I do though when like a new artist does a remix of like an older track and all the young people are like, "Oh, this track is so cool. Listen to it." And you're like, it's a remix of something that 20 years ago. Does that annoy you? Because that annoys me.
It does, and sometimes I'm like, you know what? Understandable if they change something, but like when no one hate me please for this, but when Cardi B did the "I Like It Like That,"
Yeah.
that annoyed me because I'm like, oh come on, I used to have a little doll like dog that danced the original song, and I'm like, dang it, and it kind of like almost ruined the song for me. Not that
I
she's a
understand.
terrible artist or anything, but I just
No,
like,
I understand. Yeah. No, I completely understand. Sometimes the new versions come out and like you should have just left well enough alone. You don't
yep.
mess with a classic, And I know that that's what you'd resonate with, given your particular taste with music and cars. It's like there's some things that you don't touch. You don't mess with a classic, as far as I'm concerned. Anyway, before we get to the final 10, is there anyone that you'd like to give a shout out to?
Absolutely. So the person who made me who I am today, not only just my parents, but the person that got me into pageantry and everything, Corinne Stalakis,
Hmm,
and she is what just was the USA National. Wait, sorry, not USA.
international.
It's Miss International 2023, and I love her to death. Fit Terrain is her business. Like
Hmm.
this, in worst best part is it was 5 minutes down my road, like for my
Oh
street,
wow,
her
okay,
business.
nice,
So I love that I got the opportunity to meet her, and she's helped me forward with everything, training me, prepping me. I meet with her twice a week. Love her to death, and I give all my thanks to her, and not only just my family, but mainly to her to make me the pageant person I am today, and making me have the confidence to go and do what I want to do.
nice. She's actually on my short list of people I want to interview. So thank you for mentioning that. I'll have to reach out to her. I'll tell her that you said hello. Okay, let's go through to the final 10 questions. Number one, what is your favorite word?
Ooh, favorite word. Probably, I would definitely say snazzy. Snazzy is one of my favorite. It was an old word I used to use when I was younger. Don't use it as much anymore, but when you said favorite word, that's was my favorite word for the longest time was snazzy. And I used to say about like everything, like, oh, that's a snazzy outfit. That's like everything. Just it was a weird word. It's not even a real word, but I mean, I made it for
It's a
snazzy.
real word. I know what it is. I know what it means. I don't think it's old, is it? If you say something is snazzy, yeah, I understand what that means. Doesn't matter if a 12-year-old doesn't. I do. Number two, what is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word. I'm not like most people. I don't mind the word moist. Moist doesn't bother me. But I would probably say my least favorite word, probably hate. Hate's probably my least favorite word.
Fair enough. Number three, in life, what gets you excited or what turns you on?
Ooh, I would say learning new information. Whenever I learn new information and it's a unique, especially something super unique that no one would know
Mm.
normally, I love to just be like, "Hey, do you know about this?" And like when I could say, for instance, a word, or I should have said this was my favorite word, orgling. And I
What?
tell people about the word orgling, and it is the alpaca mating call. And so, like, new information like that, I love to put it to use because it just makes people laugh or just like be like, "Why would you know that?" I love learning, love knowledge. That's one of my favorite things. So I can use that.
Orgling.
Orgling, yep.
Sounds like yodeling. Orgling. Okay. Orgling. That's a new one. I'm going to have to look that up and see what that sound actually sounds like. Number four. So that was what turns you on. Number four is what turns you off.
Oh, what turns me off is probably dishonesty. People not being honest, not being true to themselves. That does
Yep.
not go right with me.
Yep. Number five. What sound or noise do you love?
I should have said this. Um,
Don't say orgling.
it's the probably when my Impala starts up every year during the summer. That's my favorite noise. Knowing like, oh, you're still alive this year. Yes.
Okay. Dear me. Okay. Number six. What sound or noise do you hate?
What do I hate noise? Ooh, chalk scratching. When your like nails go on the chalk, I can't do that.
I love that sound only because it gives so many people the heebie-jeebies. That's another old word, but just just to turn everyone. The other one is moist. So many people hate the word moist. I'm like, well, what's? I mean, I don't love it, but it's just another word to me. Number seven. If you could have any one superpower, what would you pick and why?
I know this photographic memory because
Mm,
I've always had a problem whenever I read something or pay attention to it, like to physically just memorize it by looking at it. I know like a lot of people are really good at that and they barely have to like study or learn. I had to like memorize and make sure like
mm.
I'm matching constantly, especially for studying for exams in college, like I am. I wish I had a photographic memory to make like a lot of things easier to, and also for me to remember what to in situations and everything like that. Make it easier.
Nice. Number eight. What job other than your own would you most like to attempt?
Ooh, what would I marine biology because I've always
Mm.
loved the ocean, especially you get to go scuba diving and you get to learn about all the unique little things and being around ocean creatures. I think it's so amazing, especially to discover like new creatures of the ocean because we barely know our ocean. That would be amazing.
Number nine. What job would you definitely not like to attempt?
Definitely, I don't think I could go back to being in a restaurant. I don't think I could go back to ever owning or working in a restaurant. I give props to everybody that does. It is hard. I did it since I was 14 and up,
Yeah.
and I don't think I could ever put myself in the back in the situation of I loved it, but not to the point where I would go back to it.
Sounds like there's some emotional scarring or PTSD going on there. Final question. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive
So
at the pearly gates?
I definitely believe heaven exists and I believe in God. I have my cross on. It's probably like not showing, but there's my cross.
Nice.
So you said what he would say.
Yeah, when you
I
arrive at the pearly gates.
I it would probably be like, welcome, we are blessed to have you. We've been expecting you for a very long time. And especially giving me like a very long life, making sure I'm happy and healthy. Whatever he has planned for me is planned. But I feel like we are all God's children, and he'd be like, my child, you've come home. So that's what I expect when I go to heaven.
Very nice. Just before I let you go, when's the actual pageant? I didn't ask.
Yeah, so it's actually it's a whole week, so July 2nd to July 8th. So I was at the actual pageant July 7th, I believe. I don't have my schedule right on me. I've been trying to study it and look at it, but I think the actual pageant is the 6th and the 8th that goes like preliminary, and then
Mhm.
you go to your final rounds
Yeah, yeah.
the following day. So it's through 4th of July week, sadly. A lot of people won't be able to come.
Ah,
So my mom's the
yeah,
one who's coming down with me to help me out.
yeah.
And I cannot wait.
Where's it going to be held?
Yeah, it's in Hollywood, Florida, near like Miami-ish. Um,
Nice.
it's at the Diplomat Beach Resort, which I've never been to, and I cannot wait. It's beautiful. It's like three parts. I can't describe it. I talk with my hands. I'm Italian, so you got the Diplomat Beach Resort, and I can't wait. It looks fantastic. It's like made of glass. Looks like it's right on the beach, so it's amazing. I can't wait.
Like the weather there is going to be slightly different to the weather you're currently experiencing.
I can't wait. I want to get out of here.
It's, it sounds amazing. Well, Michaela, that's it. Thank you so much for coming on. It was a pleasure getting to speak to you.
Oh, same with you. Thank you so much for having me.
I feel like we talked about a lot of things, and now I'm going to have to go and look up. Was it ogling?
Oh,
Ogling? Or not ogling? Ogling. Ogling is something you shouldn't look up. Ogling. I'll go and look that up. But I'll keep you on the line for just a second whilst I hang up with the audience. Thanks to everyone for watching, and we will speak to you next time. Bye for now. Hey, thanks so much for watching. Sorority access is now open. So if you'd like to join an amazing group of women and learn how to be the most powerful, confident, and impactful queen possible, head to thepageantsorority.com. I'll see you there and see you in the next video.